Well, I think it's been fairly clear, and we knew even before today that President Obama has been cautious on the question of providing defensive arms to Ukraine. And I think a big question now will be what happens in Minsk on Wednesday. Do the Russians come with a different approach? And one of the problems that we've had for the last 8 months is the Russians have not been prepared to negotiate seriously. And even when you had a ceasefire concluded in September of last year, the Russians never moved to implement the terms that applied to Russia. So if there's that continued attitude, no Russian readiness to negotiate seriously, then I suspect that pressure will grow in Washington for providing Ukraine with weapons.
And do you think that'll be the right approach?
I think it would be. I mean, the problem that we have right now is up until this point, President Putin has not been prepared to negotiate in a serious way. And so you have certain efforts, the sanctions that have been applied by the United States and the European Union that are designed to encourage Russia to adopt a different approach. And those of us who argue for providing Ukraine weapons are not saying that we want to see the Ukrainian army beat the Russian army. They can't do that. But the question is, could you give the Ukrainians the capability to make further aggression by the Russian military so costly that the Russians conclude it's not worth it? And that also helps them shift to the desired course that both President Obama and Chancellor Merkel would like to see, which is a negotiated solution.
But ultimately, President Putin has succeeded, hasn't he, in destabilizing Ukraine, whichever way you look at it.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
I said, whichever way you look at it, President Putin has succeeded in destabilizing Ukraine.
That certainly is the case. And my fear here is that that, in fact, is his primary objective. He's created so much disruption and destabilization in eastern Ukraine, and that, I believe, is his goal in terms of making it harder for President Poroshenko and the Ukrainian government to address both the very pressing domestic problems they face, but also to draw closer to the European Union. And in fact, if creating that kind of instability and chaos is President Putin's goal, it's hard to see why he's going to negotiate in a real way on a settlement.